Hello everyone and welcome to the Kiki London YouTube channel. My name's Amanda and in today's video we are going to be doing some hand painted Valentine's roses using the new Pro range nail art brushes. So I really hope you all enjoy watching. I have already prepped my nail tips by applying the base coat and curing that for 30 seconds. And on the first nail, I'm going to be doing an ombre. So for the ombre, I'm using French white, which is a super pigmented classic white. And I'm going to be ombreing that with Eau Vanilla. Now, I love Eau Vanilla at the moment. It's one of my go-to colours. It's a gorgeous pinky yellow nude colour. It's just really, really pretty. Now, to begin the ombre, I'm going to be coming in with the French white at the cuticle area. And I want the Eau Vanilla to be in the centre. So I'm also going to come in with the white at the tip as well. So I'm just applying a really thin coat to begin with, taking that roughly halfway down the nail. And then I'm pushing the Eau Vanilla up against that just in the centre. And then I'm going to come back in with the French white. Now, as you see there, I'm checking my brush and cleaning it off before I put it back into the gel polish pot, just because you don't want to contaminate your colour with the previous colour you used. I'm leaving those colours wet and we're going to blend them together using the new Kiki London ombre brush. I am absolutely loving this brush because I really love ombre nails, and this one makes gel polish ombres a hell of a lot easier. And I'm just going to let the brush do all of the work really. I'm taking it backwards and forwards and it effortlessly blends those colours together. I'm not coming over the Eau Vanilla too much because I don't want to soften that too much with the white, if that makes sense. I'm more just taking the white into the edge of the Eau Vanilla and letting it merge together because I don't want to lose too much of that Eau Vanilla colour. So that's our first coat done. It does look a little sheer because obviously it's our first coat. So I'm going to pop that in for 30 seconds to cure, and then we're going to come in and pretty much do exactly the same again for the second coat. I'm applying that French white down at the cuticle area and just gently bringing it down over to where that section of Eau Vanilla is. Now, I didn't bring it down as far as before because I kind of liked the size of the gap that we've got for the Eau Vanilla. I don't want there to be too much white. I still want there to be pretty much Eau Vanilla in the whole centre, if that makes sense. And then I'm coming in again with the French white at the tip. And again, always check your brushes before you pop them back in their pots. And then I'm going to come in again and blend those colours together. Now, I have sped the video up a little bit because I work quite slowly, but I'm not being as vigorous as what it looks like in the video with my brush. You want to kind of use quite light to medium strokes and go backwards and forwards. It's something that when you're playing around, you'll find what works best for you. But I personally find just light to medium backwards and forward strokes. I'm not going anywhere near as fast as what it looks in the video. Do not worry about any brush marks that you can see in the gel polish if it looks a little lumpy bumpy. They will settle out. So what I like to do is once I'm happy with my blend, I'll just pop the nail down for a few minutes and work on another nail, and then those brush marks will just soften, and then when you come in and top coat you can't really see them at all. But the lighter you work, the less brush strokes you're going to get, if that makes sense. So if you feel that you're getting a lot of brush strokes, you're probably working a little bit too heavy handed, which, you know, it's easy done. And what I love about ombres with gel polish is you can come in and mess about with it as much as you like until you're happy with it. It's not going to cure, or it's not going to dry, sorry, until you pop it into cure. And you can also come in with a third coat if you wasn't happy with the two coats. I've then popped that nail aside just to let those colours blend together, like I said, and I'm working on the next nail. So the next two nails are going to have simple French white bases. So I'm just showing you guys one. Now this is the first coat, and then I'm going to pop those two nails in to cure for 30 seconds. So I actually popped all three nails in to cure for 30 seconds. And I'm then coming in to do the second coat. So applying this exactly the same as the first coat. Now, I find the French white super pigmented for a white gel polish, and if you do a more medium thickness coat of colour, you can get away with doing it in one coat. But I personally like to work with thinner coats, so I would rather come in with two thin coats. So once I've applied that second thin coat of colour, I'm going to pop that in for 30 seconds, and that's all of our bases done. This is what our bases looked like after we'd finished those 2 coats of colour. I'm then going to come in and top coat these using the Kiki London No Wipe Matte Top Coat. Now I'm using the matte top coat because I personally find gel polish nail art a lot easier to do over a matte surface. So you can wipe off the tacky layer from your gel polish and that be sufficient, but I just find it that little bit easier if working over a matte surface. So I just like to come in and apply a thin layer of matte top coat. As well as that, it does also make things a little bit easier video wise if I'm working on a matte surface, because sometimes in the videos, if I'm doing nail art over a glossy surface, the light reflects on the high shine from the gel polish and just makes it a little bit tricky to see. So lately I found it a lot easier to do videos on a matte surface. Anyway, moving on to our colours, I'm going to be coming in first of all with Wild Heat. I love this red. This was one of my very first Kiki London gel polish colours. It's absolutely gorgeous. Then we're going to be using Baby Pink. And the third colour I'm going to be using for the roses is Pretty in Pink. And I love this one. It's so pretty. And you can just never have enough pink in your gel polish collection. Now for the nail art, we're going to be using the 01 detail brush. And then as well as this, I'm also going to be using the 01 stripe liner brush. So I just find it easy to have both brushes on hand on my desk, so I know that they're there so I can flick between the two when I'm working on the roses. So we're working on the ombre now to begin with, and I'm taking that detail brush and I'm simply going to draw out like a messy circle shape. You definitely don't want it to have a perfect circle shape, so that's what makes these kind of roses that little bit easier to do. But you want it to have a messy sort of outline because that's what's going to make the shapes of our petals. So if you think of a rose, it doesn't look like a circle. It's kind of got the petals make a messy circle. I can't think of another way to explain it. So I'm just doing that with my detail brush. As you can see here, I'm letting the brush do all of the work, just going around in a circle and flicking it out here and there. If you do feel as though it looks too much like a simple circle, you can come around again and just bring it out in certain places. So I'm going to do 3 of these at the top and 3 of these at the bottom. And these are our bases for the roses. Now I'm applying my colour quite thin here, but then I do come over it just to thicken it up and even it up a little bit because I only want to come in and do 1 coat of the colour. And if you can see where I've put a bit of pressure down with my brush, I've kind of left brush strokes, and that's okay because we need to apply a bit of pressure to get that neat line, but it just means I'm going to come over them to colour them in a little bit more to save having to come over again and do a second coat of colour. The colour is still really thin and this colour is just gorgeous. It's so pigmented. So I'm then going to pop these in to cure for 30 seconds in my LED lamp. If you are using a UV lamp, then don't forget it's a 1 to 2 minute cure depending on the lamp you are using. Now I've switched to the stripe liner brush, and here I'm coming in with the baby pink. And what I'm basically doing is creating a C shape in the center, and then I'm coming around those with some wiggly lines. So they're not like perfect straight lines. I'm just going around in like a loose C shape, and I'm kind of following the shape of the base rose that we've created. So like I said, that's why you don't want them to be perfect circle shapes, because you want to follow the grooves that you've created. And then it's just a really easy way of making it look like natural rose petals. And that's why I love the stripe liner brush for this, because it is super thin, so you're able to create these really thin lines. And all I'm literally doing is following around that basic C that we started in the middle with the next line. And what you want to do as well is you want to try and have a mix of thinner lines and thicker lines just to add a little bit more detail to the rose. On the next nail, I do a slightly bigger one, so it's a little bit easier to see. I then pop that in to flash cure just so the gel polish doesn't run and merge together too much. You want to keep those defined lines that you've created, and flash curing helps achieve that. So just that quick 10-second flash cure, and then I'm going to come on and do exactly the same on the next 3 nails, the next 3 roses, sorry. So as you can see, just creating that sort of open C shape. I did this one slightly different. I did a center and just come around the edges. I didn't want them to look all the same or too samey, if that makes sense. but just that same principle of you've got an open section in the middle and then you're just working around that. Once I have finished these, I will pop these in to cure for a full 30 seconds, just so that I know that that pink gel polish is all fully cured before we move on to the leaves. And this is what they looked like close up. So as you can see, they're really simple to do, but I do think they look quite pretty. And I'm then going to come in and do the leaves. Now I'm using olive mint for the leaves. You could use a more green shade if you preferred, but I went for this one because I wanted the overall look to have a little bit of a vintage vibe. So I didn't want the green on the leaves to pop too much because I wanted the main focus of the design to be the roses. So that's why I went for this more muted green tone. And then for the leaves, they're really simple. I'm taking my striped liner brush and I'm simply going to bring two lines together and meet in the center and then just colour it in. Again, with the leaves, I don't like them to all be exactly the same, so I try to make some of them slightly smaller and some slightly larger. Some roses I'll put more leaves on than others. And one thing I love about roses and things like that is once you learn how to do these, they only get better. So your design, your lines will get thinner, your details will look more crisper. And florals and roses in nails are popular all year round. You can turn them into winter florals at winter. They're really popular in the spring and summer as well. So they're definitely not just for Valentine's. Moving on to the next nail, and we're doing a larger rose in the Pretty in Pink shade, and I'm doing pretty much exactly the same as before and drawing out a larger circle, but because it is larger and is going to have more attention drawn to it, I'm kind of getting that shape a little bit more neater and thinking about where I want the grooves and the petals of the roses to go. And then I'm going to do this one up in the cuticle area, and on the next nail I'm going to do it down in the tip area, just because if this was in a full set, I've only shown you 3 nails, but if it was in a full set it would flow a little bit more, and I would do the little finger and the thumbnail plain colours, and then the attention of the art is just drawn to the middle fingers, if that makes sense. It kind of just, I find that flows a lot more better in a design. So these are what the bases for those 2 roses looked like. I'm then going to take my striped liner brush and Wild Heat and draw on the petal shapes. So for the centre, I want it to look a little bit more detailed. So that's why I've done the 2 lines open rather than the C shape. And then I'm just coming around those with super thin lines. I want them to be slightly thicker in the centre and then go out to thinner at the edges. If you do find you've done your lines a little far apart, you can pop another line in between like I did there. It doesn't have to look perfect because it's a rose shape. You can kind of wing it a little bit. So that's why I find these are perfect for beginner nail art designs. I'm then coming around the edges there just to add a little bit more definition. And then I'm going to do the same again here on this one. So again, coming in and creating that circle in the middle, the open circle, and working my way around that. This one, rather than placing my circle in the center, I've placed it slightly off center just to give a little bit more of an angle to the rose, if that makes sense. So you're not looking at it head on, just because then in the set, they don't all look the same and it mixes it up a little bit. So this is what we have so far. And I'm then coming and going around the edges. Now with my brush, I'm applying really light pressure to draw on these lines because I want them to be super thin. The more pressure you apply with your brush, the thicker lines you're going to create. And because we're working on quite a small base for the base of the rose, we definitely don't want too thick lines because it'll end up just looking a little bit messy. So that's why I'm applying just a tiny amount of pressure and using the very tip part of that brush. I'm doing the same here for the leaves. When it comes to painting on those lines, I'm just loading up the tip of my brush and just using light pressure and the tip of my brush to create those leaf shapes. So as you can see, I kind of come out and then meet in the center and then do exactly the same on the other side and then just color that in. You can also use the 01 detail brush for this part as well, but because I had my striped liner brush to hand, I just ended up using that one. But that's why I love that the Kiki London brushes come in a kit with all 5 brushes, because you always have them to hand and you'll get a lot of use out of all 5. So this is what our two roses looked like once I'd finished applying those leaves. I did then pop those in to cure for 30 seconds, and we're now going to come in and top coat. Now I loved how the bases looked matte, and I thought the roses would look really pretty matte as well. So I'm coming in again with that No White matte top coat. I'm applying a nice even layer of this to all of the nails. I'm not quite sure why I started on the middle nail. I think that was the one I was most pleased with. But I'm just applying a nice even layer of this, and then I'll pop them in to cure for 60 seconds. Before I do pop them into cure, I do show you them close up so the glossy lovers can see what they would look like if you left them glossy. I do love a glossy set, but I really felt like these looked extra pretty with that matte top coat. Now this is the end of the design, so I just wanted to say I really hope you all enjoyed watching. If you did, then please give the video a thumbs up or pop a comment below. Also, if you have any requests or if there's anything in particular you would like to see, let me know in the comments below and I will try and give it a go. Once again, thank you all so much for watching. Take care, and I shall see you all again in the next video. Bye bye.